Hello, in this video, I would like to talk about how banks create money or how we can use the formulas provided from the lecture slides in chapter 16 to compute how many more monies that a commercial bank can create. Okay, so before we talk about how banks create money, we should have some informations about the notations. So we will use money supply in this chapter, right? And then the money supply represents by M, okay? So money supply includes two categories. One comes from currency. I use C to represent currency, and another comes from deposit. So I use D to represent for deposit. Therefore, M will equal to C plus D, okay? So money supply equal to currency plus deposit. And then I would like to say initially we assume, so we have our initial situation. So initially we assume the person holds the currency, okay? So the person has money in hand equal $1,000, okay? And there is no deposit, okay? No deposit, which means deposit here equal to 0. So based on this initial situation, we can have our initial money supply, right? So initial money supply M will equal to currency $1,000 plus 0 from deposit. So initial money supply equal to $1,000. This is our initial money supply, okay? Then this person decided to put all the currency into bank, okay? If the person decide to put all the money into bank, then what will happen? We can use the simple T account or balance sheet to help us to do the analyze, okay? So we assume there is a bank balance sheet. That will be for bank's balance sheet, okay? So for bank balance sheet, it will include two parts. We will have the liabilities, okay? We'll have the liabilities and we also have assets. Bank's liabilities comes from deposit, okay? So this comes from deposit, which means if this person decide to put all the currency into bank, now we have the deposit will equal $1,000, yeah? And then, as far as we know, bank need to keep some of the money as reserved, and this is required by the Federal Reserve, right? So bank need to first keep some money as reserves. And this depends on the reserve ratio. Here we assume the reserve ratio probably equal to 10%, okay? So we assume the bank need to keep the reserve as $100. And then the rest of the money, bank can make loans. So the loans will equal to $900. And based on this bank balance sheet, you can notice this is important things I need to emphasize. From this balance sheet, we have assets always equal to liabilities. Okay? And this balance sheet also tell us the reserve ratio. Okay? So also tell us the reserve ratio required by our Federal Reserve were equal to, I use R here to represent for reserve ratio. Okay? So this reserve ratio equal $100. This is our reserves, right? Divide original deposit, $1,000. this will give us, and then times 100%. Okay, so this will give us the reserve ratio equal to 10%. So from this balance sheet, it can give us at least several informations. The first, bank can make loans, but bank need to keep some reserves required by the Fed. Okay, and from this balance sheet, the liabilities always equal to assets, and we can also compute the reserve ratio, which is just equal to reserve here divide deposit. Okay, and then times 100%. And we notice the Federal Reserve is the central bank of the United States, right? So the Federal Reserve, they can control the money supply. Okay. However, for commercial banks, they don't have the rights to print the money. However, through the commercial bank, the bank can create money. Okay. So we notice the commercial banks, such as Chase or like Wells Fargo, the commercial bank can create money under fractional reserve system. Why we said a fractional reserve system? You can notice here the reserves only equal to 10% of the deposit. So this is what we call the fractional reserve system. And the total money that commercial bank can create, okay, so here I will write it down. The total money supply that the commercial banks can create will equal to the deposit here, okay? Deposit divide reserve ratio, okay? So this is the way that we can compute for the total money supply that can create it through the commercial banks. Then in our example here, the deposit will equal to 1,000 and the reserve ratio equal to 10%, right? Which will give us totally $10,000 can be created through commercial banks. And one thing I hope you should know, although commercial banks can create money, however, it doesn't mean that commercial banks can create wealth. Commercial banks can make loans, right, and increase the money supply. However, increased loans means increasing debt. Okay? So although commercial banks can create money, it cannot create wealth.